welcome to CCHA, also known as Clayton County Historical Museum, here in Clayton County, upstate New York, in Plattsburgh, in our beautiful upstate New York, where we call it our home. Today, of course, I always say a special guest, but you know, each one of us are very special guests, and we are all guests and special. But today, I do have a special guest, and I do have Kimberly Davis. Kimberly, thank
Hello.
you so much for giving me the time, the energy, your Sunday afternoon to be here with us. So I really thank you for that.
You are very welcome. Anything you would ask, I would do. So.
Oh, that means everything to me.
Thanks.
But first, are you ready to do this?
I am very excited.
So you were a public figure,
Yes.
and people know who's Kimberly Davis. Is the treasure, our treasure boss. And now, people don't really know who
Where'd
you
you go?
are.
Which is fine.
Oh, I know that feeling.
Yes.
I really do that
Right.
know that feeling. And I'm going to start with something I probably never started with it. How is it when you are a public figure and then you just disappear and you do your own thing? How'd that feel in the morning?
For me, it feels good. I know different people have a hard time adjusting to non-public life. I did not at all. It's great to, people still know me, but even when I was the treasurer, I didn't expect people to know me. There were times where I'd be introduced and people would say, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I didn't recognize you." Why would you? You know, I'm not the governor, I'm not a senator, you know, I'm the person who you pay your property taxes to. So, I tried really hard in my time to have as little ego as possible, which is hard in politics, but, to me, it was a non-political job. I had to be political to get the job, but in the end, I had to treat everyone the same when they came in the door. So it didn't matter if they were Republican or Democrat, they were going to be treated the same way regardless.
It's the first time I opened with something like that, because I really want to see how you feel. So, where you were born?
Yes.
We're going to go right
from the beginning.
Yes.
Okay, so I come from a little community called Springs, and usually when people ask me where I'm from, I will say Long Island. Where? Eastern Long Island. Where? And that's where alright, if somebody's going to go that far, the reason I generally hesitate is everyone else knows where I come from as the Hamptons. If you lived there, grew up there, I was 13th generation when I left. It's not the Hamptons. It is a beach community, hardworking, working class people, and it just so happens it's also the seat of one of the greatest income inequalities.
So you're
Crossroads.
from Hampton?
Yes.
All right.
I suppose you want to say that.
Yes.
I'm from Springs. I'm from a little community. We don't have our own zip code. We don't have a gas station. We don't have any lights. It's just this tiny community that happens to be the bedroom community for this place that is renowned worldwide. You know, it was a very small, tight-knit community at one point, kind of like here. A lot of people were related. When my father grew up, there were 400 people in the community. When I grew up, there were 4,000 people in the community. The problem is that, in general, there's between 20 and 25,000 people living there year-round. But in the summer, when everyone knows it is the Hamptons, everyone comes out, and all of a sudden you have 125,000 people in an area with one road in and one road out. And it's a nightmare for the people who live there year-round. Instead of taking 15 minutes to get to the grocery store, it takes you 45, and you have to take back roads. And then also it was, when I was growing up, they were here from Memorial Day to Labor Day, and then we got our town back. After 9/11, that stopped. People didn't leave anymore. They moved out there. And so the gentrification of this beachside community, one of my jobs when I was there before I left was I was a town assessor. And so it was my first political job.
So I was going to say, you always did it.
Yes.
So how old when you left there?
I was 26, 7,
Okay.
somewhere around there. So my first job in politics, I was the town assessor. And at that time, my parents' regular 1/3 of an acre, maybe 1,400 square feet, was worth what an average house in Plattsburgh might be worth, $125,000. But now, because of where it is, because it's in the Hamptons, that same house could be worth $800,000 or $900,000. So the average working class people either sold out, and I don't blame them for it. You know, if all of a sudden your house is worth that much money, why wouldn't you take the money and run? But then it also just doesn't become your community anymore.
Mm.
And so my parents stayed, you know, some of my friends are still there, but instead of being my community, 80% local, 20% not, it's the other way around now. And I could see that happening in my teenage years, in my 20s. And at one point I just said, this isn't my home anymore, and had the opportunity to move here.
It's so, I don't know, like to put it in words, I never thought that Hampton, Long Island community struggles. And I am guilty because I always feel like don't judge anything.
You never know.
Or at least I never thought that that could be a struggle.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I mean,
That's something amazing.
Absolutely, and growing up there, because it was more normal back then, you know, we struggled. There was definitely a roof over my head and food, but we didn't have a lot of what other people had, even in our community. But when you talk about you don't know what struggles are, you think of a place in your mind, whatever you think the Hamptons are.
Yes.
So in my 20s, I joined Kiwanis, and we can get into that, but one of the things I remembered is at Christmas time, we sold trees as a fundraiser. Very stereotypical Saturday, BMW pulls up, 4 guys in the long black trench coats get out, and they're buying the Christmas tree. And they're asking what we're raising the money for. And we said, you know, disadvantaged kids and da-da-da. Well, there's no poor people in East Hampton.
Mm.
I said, oh really, would you like me to, you know, show you where they live? You know, people don't think of, in Beverly Hills, are there poor people? You know, and in any of these communities, there are always people who don't have. Unfortunately, we call it the trade parade out there. Because it's been gentrified so much, local people can't live there anymore.
Mm.
So school teachers have to drive an hour and a half on a one-way road to get to their job to teach kids, and then drive an hour and a half back because they can't afford to live in the community where they're teaching.
See, that you just bought something that people don't think about.
Right.
So are you the only child?
No, my brother and I. My brother is he's still on the island, but he's been about an hour west of my parents.
And your parents still here?
They are still here, yeah.
Have you have a day where you changed your life and you made a decision that really made you wake up in the morning and say, oh.
Yes, several of them actually, but
Okay.
the biggest one really was moving here.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I was 13th generation. You know, everyone knows your family. I couldn't get pulled over for speeding without the cops knowing my parents. I actually got mad about it at one point because I'm like, everyone should be treated the same, and why am I being let go because and eventually my mother was a dispatcher for the town police department. So,
Oh.
you know, one day she's like, I was like, no, I don't want the get out of jail free card. That shouldn't happen. And it's, you know, that's one of my, you know, early social justice, you know, kind of things that I remember. Actually, I had a Facebook memory come up the other day, and, you know, I was raised religiously, but in one of my church school workbooks, they had us do things like during the week, and so you would read a story and you'd take action. And one of them talked about apartheid, and I think, I can't remember if it was de Klerk or Botha who was the president at the time, but I actually wrote a letter to Africa saying, please free Nelson Mandela. And I remember sitting at the dining room table and writing it, and I remember being a sophomore in high school and going into school that day and being told that Mandela was freed, and I just cried. And only one other kid in my class knew who he was and why I was crying.
Mm.
And I was so stunned, but that was also part of me being an old soul and reading a lot and being just in a different place than some of my peers, but that's a whole nother story, and I would like to talk about it, you know, my ADHD undiagnosed, and coming in later and learning a whole lot about it.
Yes, I would love that because I see how much you're helping people understand and know that and you're taking away the stigma.
Trying.
And I think it's a very good from your heart.
Mm-hmm.
that you actually doing that, and I would love to have a whole sitting.
Yeah.
To just talk and just get your knowledge on it. Because I think when you have knowledge of something you actually went through, it's even better than the doctor itself.
Mhm.
Sometimes,
Yeah.
of course, that's not my only personal statement, but you went through it, you know?
Right.
So is it safe to say when you grow up, did you grow up like middle class, or so what your mom and your dad did for a living? I'm very
I don't
stung
know,
by
lower,
him.
lower middle class or high, or income, or high-low income, I don't know how you say it, but,
Okay.
so my father was a civil servant,
Mhm.
and it's the funny thing about me being county treasurer, because I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I grew up, and he always said when I was getting to that age, I was expected to get a scholarship to go to college. My parents, it was known from the beginning, and they could not afford to send me. And I just had some struggles in my last year or two of high school, and so my grades really fell. So there was no chance that I was going to go to college. So, my father, the reason I said it was funny about him and me being in the county treasurer was he struggled in his job. He wasn't a good test taker. So in civil service, of course, the only way you can get promoted is being a good test taker. So, he was very frustrated. He commuted anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour 40 because he was a welfare fraud investigator.
Mm.
So, sometimes he had to be watching somebody in front of their house at 6 o'clock in the morning. So what time does he leave? Both of my parents were very involved in the fire department and the ambulance. So, and my mother, she did a lot of odd jobs because it was important to them that she be home, to help raise us. But, at some point it just wasn't feasible anymore. And so she would take odd jobs. She was a bus driver. She cleaned houses, whatever it was to help, put food on the table. But, so in the end, when my father was telling me that at 18 you should take these civil service exams, I said, why in the world would I do that? You hated it.
Mm.
And of course, then where do I end up? So, yeah.
So when you moved up here, did you move to Plattsburgh or?
No, I first moved to Bloomingdale on the Franklin County side, and then Essex. Was living with a boyfriend at the time, but I was commuting every day to Plattsburgh to go to school. That was, so I spent 10 years, and then when I moved up here, I had the option of going to either Paul Smith's or Plattsburgh. And Paul Smith's was really tugging at me because I liked the idea of this really small school, but I also know that, I need a lot of structure and it was also private school and expensive. So I was like, okay, I'll go to Plattsburgh. And either before you asked, like, your life-changing moments, that really was one of them. I always say the three things that have impacted my life the most are Girl Scouts, SUNY Plattsburgh, and Kiwanis.
Mm.
And SUNY Plattsburgh just absolutely changed the trajectory of my life in so many ways. The professors making sure that, they nominated me for awards I didn't even know existed. If you get to know those people as people, they can do so much for you. But I know we're swaying in and out of topics, but SUNY Plattsburgh was definitely a huge reason for where I am today.
What would you tell Kimberly today when you were 20? If you're going to send yourself a message today.
Am I telling my 20-year-old self
Yes.
something? Keep going. Here's a very good story right around that time. I think it was 21, 22. So I was working at TJ Maxx. It was my first real job out of high school. And I was nannying part-time, so I lived with a family. And the mother and I didn't always see eye to eye. We got along very, well, but had different ideas of what a nanny did.
Mm.
And at the end of my time there, we could tell it was not a good fit. And I think I know that she was trying to put me down when she said, "You're like a twig or a log on a river. You're just bobbing along and you have no path and you have no idea where you're gonna go."
Oh. And how old this woman was?
She was 40, 42, somewhere around there.
Sometimes I feel like that stuff doesn't exist, but I know it does.
It does, it does. And I think she was trying to be helpful, like, you need some direction in your life, girl. But I think, and I tell this to people, I am so glad that I did not have that path. I wasn't that kid at 7 who knew I wanted to be a doctor or a teacher or a lawyer or whatever. And I certainly never said, oh, I want to be a county treasurer. But because of that, I have had an incredibly interesting life and have done so many things that if I had been on a certain path, I never would be able to experience.
Mhm. That's amazing. Do you have a big decision that you made in your life? I know we talked about a few changes, but did you have one where by a choice that you choose to do this, and it actually was good or bad?
Yes.
Would you like to share that with us?
Sure. Just about a year ago today, I left my job as the county treasurer. I had been doing that for 11 years. And it certainly was a job that I could have done until I retired.
Mhm.
I am so much happier now. And part of it is not, when you're a public figure, people treat you differently for many different reasons. And one of them is you're not a person anymore. They think they can say anything they want to you, and you have to take it because you're a public figure. And that's wrong. I would joke with the county administrator from time to time saying at certain times of the year, if my day wasn't spent with 80% of my time getting yelled at, I probably wasn't doing my job. But that takes a toll on you.
Mhm.
It takes a toll when you're told that you're a horrible human being because you're doing your job. And the very bad part of my job was I was the enforcement officer for foreclosure. I had to foreclose on people's homes, to hear people's stories, to listen, to be, sympathetic, empathetic, but know that you can't do anything because you have to follow these laws. To be told that you're going to hell. When I ran for state senate, I had to call the police at one point because I felt threatened. People, and we're dealing with this right now, people have got to de-escalate. I can disagree with you wholeheartedly on anything, even our politics, even the President of the United States. But no one has the right to harm you, especially for doing your job. So I personally think there needs to be a lot more safety measures in place for public people. I've certainly had my life threatened, and that's not acceptable. So that's one thing I don't have to deal with anymore. I also get to use more of my financial skills. Before I was treasurer, I was a banker. So I also get to say to potential clients, how many other, in my current job, I am a government banking relationship manager. So what does that mean? Instead of you being my client, that's retail banking. If you had a business and we were my client, that's commercial banking. Government banking, my only clients are municipalities. So city, town, village, public authorities, fire districts, libraries, things that have taxing jurisdiction.
Which is perfect match.
So that's what I say to people. How many other government bankers are there in New York State who are former county treasurers? So I get to see both sides of the problem that, a potential customer might have. So
What's Kiwanis means to you?
Kiwanis is everything. It's, I always said that Kiwanis was the balance to my very heavy political life. And it's an opportunity to live the legacy of my parents, who were huge community service people. My father is about to celebrate his 59th year as a volunteer firefighter. My mother's been in for many, many years. My brother is a firefighter on Long Island. So I was brought up in this community service environment. We always joked that the firehouse was our second home. We'd play hide and seek where our parents were, going to a meeting or something. But
Do you want to explain? Because you never know someone,
Yes.
what's Kiwanis?
yes, I will. But the reason I joined Kiwanis was because I wanted to be in the ambulance. At the time, in order to join the ambulance, you had to become a firefighter first. And I didn't want to do that. And I knew from my parents being AEMTs, doing all of the stuff and all the training that fire personnel have to do, I just knew that wasn't going to be for me. And so a woman I worked with in a bank, she said she was a Kiwanian, and I said, well, the next time someone comes in, can you please introduce me? I think maybe this is something I'm interested in. And the reason is Kiwanis, I'll give you the mission statement. Kiwanis is a global organization of volunteers dedicated to improving the world one child and one community at a time. How can you do anything better than that? So it was funny. So when the guy comes in, somebody I'd known my whole life. And so he asked me to go to a meeting. Now, think about this. I was 23 at the time. You know, being in Rotary, you have a 23-year-old come in and they're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. It's hooks in, you know. And so by the second meeting, they had made me a member, and that was October of '97. So
I've been there almost 30 years.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
28.
Yeah. And it's just been such a great part of my life. You know, at 23, here are all these people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, up to 90s, and they're interested in what I have to say. And of course, like I said, you're so excited when a young person comes into any service organization that I think I was there for a month and I was secretary. And then, you know, did all the different positions up until I left. I was going to be president the next year, and that's when I moved up here. But it has given me such skills. And that's one of the things I try to say to employers is, and no offense to my Rotarian friends, because we have to compete. You guys are so huge and we're not. But I always say, yes, Rotary is great for networking and such, but how many years is it going to take a brand new person to get into that organization and become president? There's a lot of people who probably want to be president. In Kiwanis, we're so small that if you want to, from day one, you know, after we usually say stay in a year, you can be on the board, you can move up very quickly. And that's what happened with me in Kiwanis. So all of a sudden, I was, when I moved up here, I was president on and off a couple of times, became lieutenant governor, which is kind of the next step in that hierarchy. They take care of all the clubs in their division. And then I started getting division positions and district positions until, you know, now I've got international positions.
So what's your positions with Kiwanis now?
So right now I've got two. My international position is I'm the co-chair for New York for the Kiwanis Children's Fund. And the Kiwanis Children's Fund, if you think about SUNY Plattsburgh, for example. SUNY Plattsburgh is like Kiwanis International, and the Kiwanis Children's Fund is like SUNY Plattsburgh Foundation. It's the charitable arm of Kiwanis. So my job is to educate members and fundraise for the Children's Fund in all of New York. Previously, I had been an ambassador, which was, I was responsible from Maine to Virginia and the country of Bermuda. But when the New York position came back open, I was like, I'd rather go do the work. Like, I don't need to be the manager. So before, when you asked about how does it feel to all of a sudden go from being the CFO to just an employee, fabulous. In my current, job, I'm responsible for me. And I'm not, don't have to worry about, anything else. But I've never had a problem being a worker bee. Even when I was in the treasurer's office, when we had, hundreds of envelopes coming in for, taxes or whatever, yep, sure, give me a pile, I'll, help out. So it was no big deal for me to go from,
to start over.
Yeah.
To just do the work.
Yeah.
How is your relationship with your mom and dad?
It's good. My father, you may remember, I donated a kidney to him 2 years ago, and we're both great. And we
How did you make that decision, Kimberly?
Oh, it wasn't even a decision.
This is just crazy. Great. It's all great, but how did that happen? Can you share with us?
Yeah, sure. So, my father, I always say he's the Energizer Bunny. So he had polio as a child. He had, actually the week I was graduating from SUNY Plattsburgh, he got bladder cancer. A couple years later, got kidney cancer. They went in to remove, a tumor, and they told us that they were just going to, slice it away, and it was going to be 6-8 hour. Well, we get to the 6 hour mark and there's nothing, and we get to the 8 hour mark and something's wrong. Luckily, they ended up taking the whole kidney, but because they did that, he wouldn't have to do chemotherapy. So we thought, great. kidney cancer comes back. You're good. So about October of 2020, I said, Dad, this is ridiculous. Get on the list for a transplant. No, that should go to a younger person. I'm, at the latter stages of my life. And I said, Dad, I'm not going to give my kidney to somebody else. I would give it to you. Now, we have kidney disease in our family. I had a kidney stone when I was 17, which is not normal. And so then it was, well, what if you need? I said, Dad, let's figure all that out later. Start the process. So after a little bit, fine, we started the process. It's around Christmas time, and I'm wondering why things aren't continuing to move. And I get a call that his cancer's come back. And you can't do a transplant unless you're cancer-free for 2 years. So that's it. So 2 years later, January of 23, I get a call, and he said, write this number down. Somebody's going to call you. Take the call. He said, are you okay with starting the process again? I said, Dad, of course, that's not even a question. And I said, but let's not tell people because, so as much as we were upset, others, of course, were upset too. But so going through the process, but you asked how that decision, it wasn't even a decision. It's my father. I love him. You do what you can and what you are able. The scariest part, though, it wasn't the surgery. Like, I had full faith in the doctors. We each had, like, my surgeon was the chair of the transplant unit at Stony Brook University. His was the chair of the nephrology department at Stony Brook University. So we had the two best doctors at Stony Brook. So for me, the scariest part, though, was when he had gone through all of his tests, he's approved. Now it's on me. It's on my health. It's on what I've done to my body over the last, at that point, 48, 49 years. And every once in a while they'd be like, well, blood pressure was a little high. We're going to have you wear a heart monitor for 3 days. Well, like the stress that puts on you, or, your sugar's a bit higher. This is a bit higher. We're going to have a retest. And up until, I think about 10 days before the transplant, they're like, well, your sugar's high again. And I said, listen, are you going to stop this transplant because my sugar might be at 120 instead of 100 or 75 or whatever it's supposed to be, 75? No. I said, then why are you asking me to do another test? And I just had it at that point. But even the morning of being in, we were in separate rooms or across from each other waiting to go in.
What was your brain thinking? And your heart, like that second where you're going to be separated? Yeah,
it was, I was afraid for him. I was afraid that something was going to go wrong. Or that the kidney wouldn't work, because there's no guarantee, even though we were, as they basically said, as close of a match as you can get. There's no guarantee, and we've heard stories since then of people who the person donates and it just doesn't work. Well, you can't put your kidney back, you're out of kidney. So, and they have you talk with psychologists and psychiatrists and all that stuff to make sure that you're mentally prepared for it. But it really was, please let this go well for him. Because my father is a very outdoorsy guy, again, firefighter, just this, and his life at that point, he was going to dialysis 3 days a week, an hour in each direction, 3 hours when he was there. You're exhausted when you get back. And I was happy that he was alive, but that wasn't his life. That wasn't who he was. And so that I could play a small part in that and him having his life back, how can that be even a choice? That was a no-brainer. It was easy.
So I'm going to go out, get back into it. What do you think of love?
In general, love, the greatest question I was asked at SUNY Plattsburgh was by a business professor. First day of class, of course, everyone's trying to, get the teacher's attention. And he said, what's the meaning of life? And of course, you've got to make as much money as possible. No. Somebody else gives their answer, become this, become that. No. It's to love and be loved. There is nothing other than love. And anytime anyone asks me my favorite song, I don't even have to think about it. It's Imagine.
Yes.
All we need is love. I mean, it should be that one, but I like Imagine a lot better.
That's my favorite.
But there are a lot of reasons about Imagine specifically, but love is the greatest thing there is. And if we remember that, so much of this other BS would go away. So much kindness would happen. I remember one of the greatest sermons I ever heard was called Mind Your Own Business. Because if you're supposed to be living according to a certain dogma, judge not lest ye be judged. Those in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. And yet that's what we do every single day. We are judging people. And I was telling Ben, your camera guy here, and so I'm going to bring it up. I said, I hope there's some comment about looks. So I'm just going to bring it up. So I'm getting ready for today, and I'm like, oh God, I should do my hair. And everyone says it looks better when it's down, which I know, but pause right there. Imagine someone saying to me, Lamiaa, your hair looks better when you have it down. Do you know how many times people have said that to me? So basically what they're saying is you don't look good when your hair's not down.
Yeah.
And I could have done that, but I'm like, this is the way people know me. Is my hair back in a bun, messy sometimes, messy not others, but
I'm gonna be me.
I'm gonna be me. I mean, I didn't come in my pajamas, but it's just, we have to be kind. You have no idea what someone else is going through in their life, and we all have these preconceived notions like you did about the Hamptons, about anything and everything. I remember being in the grocery store here in Plattsburgh, Saturday, Sunday, whatever, t-shirt and shorts, and I see somebody, and they're like, are you the county treasurer? And I said, yes, thank you. And he said, and you're wearing that? I said, I'm a human being first.
Yes.
County treasurer is what I do Monday through Friday, and last time I checked, it's not Monday through Friday.
Yes. And the reason I'm asking, I'm gonna go to love, because we were talking about your dad. How's the love? So, if I talk about romantic love, Kimberly's married.
Yes.
And how did you bring the news to the husband and to your mom and to your brother and all the ones that loves you too, and you love them?
Right. So once my dad made the decision to go through the process, we all got tested. That wasn't a choice. And I think I'd even said to my husband ahead of time, I wish my father would just get on the darn transplant list. Which, by the way, 80% of people on the donor list need kidneys, so please think about donating a kidney. But my PSA for the day.
Yes.
So we all got tested. I was the only match, because you have to be the same blood type as the recipient, and I was the only blood type. My brother shares the same blood type as my mother.
Oh.
But that's why the second time I kind of, other than obviously his wife, my brother, my husband, we all knew, but we tried to keep it quiet because we didn't want to get everyone's hopes up. The one thing I would like to share with you is, because I don't know if I think I told my dad this, but since he was part of it. So you're waiting for them to make that decision, and like the whole team comes on a Tuesday and they're going to make the decision whether you can donate this kidney or not. And I'm waiting for the call and I'm waiting for the call, and it's like 4:15. I'm like, please call me today. Like, don't make me wait another day. So I finally get the call. Yes, you're going to be accepted. Thank you, thank you. I said, have you told my dad yet? No, because it's up to me. And so I'm like, okay, I get to, how am I going to tell my dad? Like, I hadn't thought about it. So I call the house, no answer. Call the cell phone, no answer. Like, my dad doesn't go very far, I called the firehouse, not there. And for like an hour, I'm panicking, like, where can he possibly be? So then I thought, all right, maybe he went out to dinner, and there's one place locally that he likes to go to dinner, so I called. And I said, does Bob Davis happen to be there? Like, oh yeah, he's eating dinner at the bar. Great. I talked to him, sure. And, we have our typical, oh, hello, what's going on? I said, where have you been? Why, what's the matter? I said, do you want a kidney?
Oh.
He said, what? I said, do you want a kidney? And then I could hear the silence. And I know how my dad cries. He, from when we were little, he'd always try to hide it, but it's, And, all right. And he told me later that some of his friends were there at the bar with him. So, of course, what a celebration. And then he had a meeting that night. And I don't remember if he told people at that point, but I mean, that's, I think, one of the greatest moments of my life is being able to tell him that this was actually going to happen. And then, of course, waking up and hearing everything went well and the whole recovery bit, but yeah.
What's the first conversation you had with him after?
I don't remember if I got to see him that night or not. I was up walking around already. I couldn't get into a room until about 11 o'clock at night, like they just didn't have a room for me. So I don't remember if it was that night or the next morning, but it was really just, how are you doing? What I was told immediately is the kidney started working immediately, which was like my big, fear. And but the next, day, two, whatever, however long I was in the hospital, which wasn't very long, we would, go into each other's, I'd go into his room. He had more stuff going on because of the whole anti-rejection possibility, but, so that was great being able to spend that little time, but we really didn't get to hang out in each other's rooms because you're exhausted, your body's going through this, major metamorphosis, so.
How do you feel?
I feel great. We joke all the time with my dad. His numbers are better than mine because they tend to give the left kidney, which is bigger than the right, so he gets the better kidney. But, he also has to take way better care of himself than I do. The biggest thing, because people said, well, are there things you can't do anymore?
Mm.
The one thing they said is if you want to be a bodybuilder, you can't. Because you have to watch the amount of protein. It's not that you can't eat protein at every meal you can, but you need to keep it to a regular sized portion of protein. Obviously I have to drink tons of water, and watch my salt, because obviously high blood pressure is not good for the kidneys. But the biggest, I think, relief for my father was the answer to his question of, well, what if you need a kidney in the future?
Mm.
The great thing is if you are a living donor and you need a kidney in the future, you go to the top of the list. Because
Thank
you
you
have
for saying
already,
that to
yes,
people.
I think it's something that's incredibly important to know. And the other thing is that even if at the end something happened and they said, you know what, you can't do this anymore, there's also a voucher program.
Mm.
So even though my brother wasn't the same blood type, if you needed a kidney and you two were the same blood type, he could donate a kidney to you. And your sister is the same as my father, she donates to him. So it's this exchange program of kidneys. So it's not ever that, oh, we can't help somebody in our family because we're not a blood, match. You absolutely can through the voucher program. And I've met plenty of people where, oh yeah, my kidney came from Pennsylvania or Kentucky and the other thing that's really important is the reason why there's such a demand is there are not a lot of people donating kidneys when they die, but also a living kidney is much better for a recipient. You live longer with a living kidney. So you do fine on one, share your spare, I encourage people to at least look into it.
I really love that you shared that with us. There is so many things that comes with it. I don't think people know about that. So what does Kimberly think about mental health?
Oh,
First, do you have a
Yes.
fear? Like, do you have a fear? We all have fear, something that you really live with.
Well, fear and being afraid of are two different things. Do I have any real fear? I have a real fear of dying without doing all the things I wanted to do.
Okay.
What am I scared of? Spiders.
Okay.
I can pick up a
I
mouse,
understand.
a snake, anything you give me, but a spider, doesn't matter how big or small. No.
What's the biggest thing you still have on your bucket list and you still didn't do? Of course, you have a lot of lists, but one thing that it really means a lot to you.
Italy.
Italy?
Yes. So we're my husband, so Jerry.
I thought you were going to
husband-
say a country.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we like to cruise a lot, but growing up, I think Paris was my number one. Yes. But
So what do you think of mental health? And
sorry, thank you, yes.
Yes, and do you have something that you personally,
Yes.
go ahead,
All
share
right.
it with us.
Yes.
I'm really excited for this, Kimberly.
Good.
Because not only that you have a lot and I know your wealth of knowledge, but you also have that gift of know how to say.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. So I have ADHD. I was not diagnosed until I was an adult. when I look back in all of the research I continue to do on ADHD, I can see it as early as second grade.
Mm. You didn't know?
Nobody knew back
Yeah.
then. You know, and, and, you know, one of the things, you know, whether it's ADD, which is now ADHD, people always have like, okay, that's, you know, a little boy who can't sit still, you know, these hyperactive kids, and people just give them drugs to, you know, make them zombies, and that's like such a bad stereotype about ADHD. So how I was diagnosed is when I was, I don't know, somewhere between 30 and 35, I went to the doctor, and I didn't know if it was like an early midlife crisis or whatever, and I just said, I just feel like I can't focus, nothing's, you know, my important things are not getting done. Not that I was ever in danger of like losing a job, that kind of thing, but I started listing, and now knowing what the list is of, you know, things that show up present with ADHDers, classic case.
Mm.
And she's like, oh yeah, you have ADHD, and, you know, talked about the drugs. And I was like, oh, I don't like taking drugs. I really don't want to have to depend on something. And she's like, well, you know, we tried a non-stimulant first. Did not work, hated how it was. And finally I was like, all right, I will try, you know, big bad Ritalin. And what a difference.
Mm.
And the reason, I've had a few people recently be like, why are you sharing so much on Facebook about ADHD? And I said, because I'm kind of
Mm. What do you
I'm that, and I get now that there are systems in place for teachers,
Mhm.
but again, I had such classic symptoms of ADHD from a young age, and nobody spotted it. Again, I'm not blaming my teachers because they may not have had the tools that they have now, because I've had teachers say, oh yeah, we definitely screen for that now. But I even posted something the other day about, okay, let's say you're in 4th or 5th grade and you've got 2 kids who are, something's wrong, something's different, something's going on with them. And I'm reading this book now called The Year I Met My Brain.
Mm.
Fabulous book about ADHD. The first half is what it is and what it's not, and then the second half is how to deal with it. Well, in the first half, there are 2 huge things that I never even would have thought about that they cover, and one of them is the issue with women and the issue with racism.
Mm.
So with women, it was diagnosed in boys because girls always were taught how to, you know, you have to sit and you have to do this, and, you know, boys can be boys, but girls, oh no, we had to behave. And so there's a term called masking, and I knew growing up I was not normal. I didn't know what it was, but I can remember as early as 5 going over, so maybe even then, but I just call it I was born an old soul. But I remember going at 5. I remember the Fisher-Price kitchen sets. So my, you know, friend got one for Christmas or whatever, and we go to her house, and she's playing with it, and I'm like, this is stupid. I mean, at 5 years old, I remember this. And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, what are we doing? Like, this isn't real stuff. If we're gonna play, let's go play in your kitchen with real stuff. And she's like, but no, dolls. I didn't get dolls. It was imagination. That wasn't something, you know, I've always been that kind of, you know. So,
and what you think, you're not supposed to be on like logic.
Right, at 5 years old. I was a very logical kid.
Yeah.
My mother hated when she would try to punish me by sending me to my room. Great. I get quiet. I had a whole library of books I could read. It would piss her off beyond belief. But
so what's the biggest struggle
for
with
me?
the
And
yes,
everyone's
for
different.
you,
So there's
yes.
3 kinds.
Yes.
There's the hyperactivity, there's the inattentive, and there's the combination, which is me. Executive dysfunction, which I didn't even know that term 6 months ago. So executive function in your brain, and that's really what it is. Our brains are wired differently. We react to dopamine. So we're always looking for that dopamine hit, which is anything that's new or novel, or when we're under a crunch. So one of the kind of joke memes that is out there is, if you give me some small insignificant thing to do as an ADHDer, I could stare at the wall for 3 hours because, oh my God, I don't know how to do that, or you give me someone's in a stressful situation and there's a car accident, I can handle it like that. So it's time lapse. When we're really hyper focused, it is one of our strengths. We can go like 6 hours working on a project, but that also means we haven't eaten. ADHDers have a real problem with eating. Our whole concept of time is very different. There's, for me, the hyperactivity in girls, it's in your brain. I can't shut my brain off. Now, a lot of people say that, but I literally can't. And I find a lot of people who have these similar symptoms as I do, or whatever, I'm not using the right word, but it's just very difficult. And then sometimes we have difficulty with our emotions, with regulating our emotions, but it's a lot of organizational stuff. Now, anyone who's watching this who only knows me from afar might say,
never.
Oh my gosh, she's the most organized person I've ever met.
Yeah.
If you ask my husband or those who actually have worked closely with me, they know I am not organized at all. But I'm organized in my way.
Yes.
So I'm that person that my husband hates that has a desk. I cannot have, he jokes, I cannot have a flat surface. There have to be piles of stuff. Now I know where things are in those piles, so I can call him up and say, hey, I forgot so-and-so. It's on the right-hand pile under a blue piece of paper, and it's got this writing on it. I can remember that. So, so that's, and we've had in this interview, whether people see it or not, there are times people joke as you're getting older, you have those stop in the middle of the sentence. That's where the inattentive comes in. So when I say I can remember it back to 2nd grade, I had a teacher who brought my parents in because she thought I was being, I was forgetting my books on purpose because I didn't want to do my work. I spoke up, or I was disruptive. Well, I was the kid in the class not wanting, I mean, I was a know-it-all, definitely like 4th grade. I definitely know that, but I hated, and I even hated in college, when a teacher asked a question and nobody answered. So I was like, ooh, like I knew. Well, that's also annoying to people, you know, so that, you know, just one of those things that I could recognize that I was different. One of the biggest, easiest ways for me to say this to people is my senior year of high school. I got a 33 in speech class. I got a 97 in advanced placement Spanish. And one of my teachers sent me to the school psychologist. And I didn't know why I was being sent. And back then it was, oh, something's wrong with you if you're going to school psychologist. So she gets me in there and she's like, do you know why you're here? And I said, no. And she said, well, your teacher said that you're going to fail this 2nd type of English class. I had that year. I got a 54, but I got the highest grade on the exam. And I said, yeah, because the teacher's boring and I don't like the class. And she's like, you don't want to be here, do you? I said, no, I don't. She said, okay, have a nice day. Oh, what a wasted opportunity.
But you do what you're interested in. Am I right?
Yes. If you're not interested in something, oh no. And also simple tasks. I hate washing dishes. It's my one job at home. Not my one job, but yeah, my husband will say it's my one job. And it's one of those things, simple tasks are really difficult for ADHDers to do. Laundry, dishes. Luckily I don't have this problem, but some people, hygiene, bathing, all of those things. Don't ask me why, but there's just something, if there's not a reward, if there's not that dopamine hit, you want to give us the most complex problem, oh my God, thank you. I will fix it, I will solve it, but you ask me to go and put the garbage out, and so some people then think that you're childlike because, oh, I have to teach you, I have to tell you what to do all the time. So there's 5 million things that we could talk about with ADHD, but the biggest thing for me is, you know, sometimes I'm going to need extra time to do something, and not because I don't get it, but because until I'm this close to the deadline, I'm not going to do it. I remember having a book report due in high school, for example, and it wasn't done. Like I just finished the book at 10 o'clock at night or something. And I would say to my dad, okay, I'm going to go to bed. I'll wake up at 4 o'clock to, type out my report. well, why don't you just stay up now and do it? Nope, couldn't do it. But at 4 o'clock, I know I have 2 hours, and that has to be done.
And that's when you
And
do
that's
it
when I
right
do it.
on the deadline.
Yep.
What's a big advice Kimberly Davis can give to someone that actually wake up in the morning and feel all that you said you felt, all the interest? Now that you educate yourself more about it, can you give someone out there an advice? What should they do I know we're running out of time. 1, 2, 3, the most result that you already have.
See a doctor, see a psychiatrist. They're hard to find. There's a lot of great online platforms. That's actually what I am doing now with my therapy and psychiatrist. They're online because I'm not going to try to find local. It's very hard. Second is don't be afraid of medication. So I've been on my medication for almost 20 years now. I'm fine. I actually just asked for an increase in mine because it's been 20 years and I can tell, the medication wears off throughout the day. So some people can take what they call an extended release. So you have this, throughout the day. I can't do that because I also have insomnia. And when you're taking a stimulant too late in the day, it's going to affect your sleep. But, the doctors are going to be really great about just try this. If this doesn't work, we're going to try something else. That doesn't work. It's same with, whether you've got depression, anxiety, any of these other things, which I've got those too. It's not just ADHD. A lot of times when you have one of these things, you have other things. And one really important thing that I want to say about that, because a lot of time people who have ADHD have anxiety and depression. I'm happy that our medical doctors are asking the question, are you depressed?
Yep.
They're not asking or not saying what they mean by that word. That might mean something totally different to you than it does to me. So when my doctor asked me that, I thought depression was the people who couldn't get out of bed,
Yes.
or were sad, or were contemplating suicide, and that wasn't me. But when I said to my doctor, tell me more what you mean by that, she said, okay, do you do this, think this, 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 this? And there were a lot more yeses than there were nos. And all of a sudden, I see, okay, yes, I've also got depression and anxiety. Nothing wrong with it. But there's so much, especially like, I was that last generation, and Gen Xers were like the best generation, other than the greatest generation. But it was, suck it up, buttercup.
Yep.
Like, I was the only girl in my Little League team. My father occasionally would umpire. And if I'd get hit, it wasn't, oh my gosh, honey, you okay? Walk it off. So, people are just like, oh, everyone's, depressed now. Everyone's anxiety. Everyone's got ADHD. No, actually they don't. A lot more women are becoming aware of it because they're getting to a point in their life, especially with perimenopause, where they can't mask anymore. And people say, what do you mean by masking? It's putting on these masks to make ourselves look more normal or to fit in this world that our brain does not fit in. So, so-and-so just can't take, making a presentation. That's not what anxiety is. I was very close and I was going to take my anti-anxiety medicine before coming here, but if it was somebody else, I would have. But it's my friend Lamiaa, so that's okay. I know I didn't have to.
That just made my day.
But, thank you.
Being kind,
Yes.
too,
Well, but it's also, I would have been fine if I took it, because all it's really going to do is just slow my heart rate down a little bit. And I wasn't, that's the other thing. It's not just about being nervous. I could go and do a presentation. If I'm doing a presentation of something I know, I have no problem. I'm not nervous. I could, anytime I was speaking in front of the legislature. But there were times that I would have those body cues that would think that you were nervous, like, the sweating or the shaky in your voice. I'm like, why is this happening? I'm not nervous. And some of those things. So, again, whether any of these mental health issues that are out there, please learn more about them. It's not just what you think. And that's why, again, for those of you who, are on Facebook with me, I share those memes because I think it's really important for people to understand, here's this person who looks like they have their together, and I'm not pardoning myself for using that word, but here is what you don't see. This person freaking out because they've got 17,000 things to do. I always told people that I operate in a triage situation every day of my life.
Mm.
Why? Well, because I have so much going on, what deadline is going to happen right now? And I know it'd be great if I could prepare for this thing that I'm doing next month now, but that's also on me because I'm choosing to be as busy as I am. I'm choosing to do the things that I do. And part of age too is getting to the point where you can't do all of those things anymore.
Mm.
And you have to step back and you have to really find what that focus and what really matters to you and do those things because life is too damn short.
I can't thank you enough, and the reason for this podcast, I wanted people to know that you're a great example in our community, in your job, and can you imagine how you're going to impact someone right now that maybe I need help, maybe it's okay,
It is okay.
you know? And when they see that, I want you to promise me to come back again.
Absolutely.
And we can just talk about this.
Yes.
I think that will do great because you talk from the heart and experience, and
Right.
you know, I believe nothing much better than experience.
And I could be more succinct and have more, to offer, but I know in a short amount of time, just
Yes.
even talking about this a little bit, I hope helps somebody.
Yes, and open up the whole thing, and this is the plan going forward. So now, chicken or steak?
Depends on the side dish.
Okay. Oh, that's a no one. That's a no answer. So, okay. How about seafood? Still?
Oh, love shrimp, love lobster, hate clams, love scallops, hate oysters and mussels.
Oh, all right, Kimberly. You know
I
what?
grew
Just
up at the
rid of.
water.
I was gonna say you're
Well-
from there.
Well, it's funny because I love clamming.
Yes.
Like the actual act of clamming is so relaxing and it's so wonderful, and I hate clams. So like my friends loved it when I go clamming. Like, here you go.
Okay, so music. How about your favorite music?
So I'm a singer-songwriter person. So my tastes are of I'm a huge Simon & Garfunkel, Billy Joel. This year, even though I'm not a country person, I am listening a lot to Casey Musgraves.
What's your favorite movie?
Hard. Charlotte's Web.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Not theatrical, of course, but just for, overall.
Or Julia Roberts, this voice,
No,
the
no,
last
no,
one.
no,
You would
no,
like the old one? Okay.
No.
okay, I'm sorry.
I mean, I'm sorry, I love Julia Roberts, but it was.
You want the original.
I
You
want
like-
the original.
Okay,
She looked too much like a spider, that's why.
okay. That's
And like that original, it's just, the score was so beautiful, it was just, oh.
your favorite holiday.
I don't have one.
You don't have a favorite holiday.
No.
You just, every day is your favorite day?
If you had, my favorite season is autumn,
Okay,
if that helps.
yes. Yes. Autumn is upstate New York.
Oh my gosh.
It's
Like, some people just like, really not spring or summer. Summer, I can't deal with the heat.
Mm.
I love spring, but autumn is real, like, spring is the promise, and that's when, the flowers grow and, all that, but fall is the take a breath, have the gratitude for the season that was, and prepare for the long, cold winter.
I'm advancing the podcast because I want to, every time when you start first doing something you don't know, and I think it's getting better. So I'm adding more questions and I'm getting more into the person. So what questions that you thought I was going to ask you and I didn't?
So I used to like, what was that show with James Lipton?
Yes.
Inside the Actor Studio.
Uh-huh.
What's your favorite swear word?
Oh, all right. I love that, Kimberly. Thank you for
Yeah.
being so easy. What's your favorite swear word?
I have a second one. It makes me laugh, and please, bleep it, but
We're going to bleep the second
Okay.
one, not the first. We're going to keep it.
okay.
All right. Okay.
I laugh every time I say it or hear it. It's the funniest to me.
I love how open-hearted you are. I know a lot about how you believe in life and how you really believe in equality.
Very much.
And I can't thank you enough. I really want to have you back
You
to
will.
just talk about certain things that you are already mastering.
I do have another one for you because
Go ahead.
that was one of the fun ones
Yes.
from that one. The other one that I love, and few people have asked me this recently, and I don't remember how. Oh, I do know how. What's your favorite sound?
Mm.
And the reason this comes up is my second favorite sound is the uncorking of bubbly.
I like that. I'm gonna add this questions.
Yeah.
So what's your that's the second.
That's the second.
What's your first?
Children laughing.
Oh,
Especially little kids giggling. That's just the joy of it.
and
It's
people
just-
don't think about what's your favorite sound.
Yeah.
Kimberly, I have so much more questions that I didn't get to it because it was so interesting and I missed on a lot. So we're probably gonna have you again.
Sure.
I can't thank you enough for everything, and thank you for being here
You're welcome.
in this world.
Yes, thank
Thank
you.
you. Okay, Plattsburgh, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think I said that before, but Clinton County, upstate New York. Have a great night and see you next time.